Hey, welcome everyone to the consumer tech advice video, and it's going to be talking about good old Google up to their usual shenanigans of going against their original company slogan, do no evil, because they don't do that anymore. They do a lot of evil, actually. I say that ironically as I'm posting this video on YouTube. Anyway, if you want to see the written version of this video, you can find a link to my website in the video description, and on my website I'll have all my source links that I'll be referencing on this video as well. So basically the concern is this. Google is basically locking down a lot of the openness and freedom of Android by removing the ability to install apps that are not part of the Google Play Store. Now, a lot of people say, well, that's sideloading. Sideloading basically is a terminology when you install apps that are not from Google Play Store or App Store on iPhone. On iPhone, yes, sideloading seems like a correct term because it's such a lockdown ecosystem. You bought a phone that you can't really control. Sorry, that's what you get when you buy an iPhone. And with Android devices, that's not typically the case. It should not be called sideloading because you're just installing an app. It's like getting a Windows computer or a Linux computer. You install an app from the internet. So if I go to Brave and want to download the Brave browser, I don't want to use Edge, part of Windows. I can just go to the Brave website. I don't have to go to the Microsoft Store. I can download it from the website and install it. You never hear anyone say, I sideload apps on Windows. It's the same thing on Android. Well, it's technically Graphene OS, but you get the idea. It's Android based. So what's happening is that Google has announced that they're going to make it very difficult to install apps from non-Google Play services because they want all developers to be registered. So part of the registration process is basically them tracking data of developers. So if you're someone who's a hobbyist and wants to make FOSS applications, FOSS stands for free open source software, which I'm a big advocate for. I think it's the way we should go and try to donate to developers' applications and operating systems that you like. This is also going to be a big problem for people like me that use F-Droid. F-Droid is specifically a FOSS marketplace. So it's an app you get from the internet, and you can search for free open source software applications. You don't have to get it from Google Play because when you download and install something from Google Play, Google's tracking your activity and seeing what apps you download, and they put a whole bunch of spyware garbage in there. It's pretty bad if you really look into the underlying details. The problem here is that they want the developers to scan their data universal numbering system, their DUNS number, identification. So that includes credit card because they want payment for registering for the service. You basically have to go through Google's official technology to register the app so you can become a verified developer. Now, if you go to the official Android blog as to reasoning for this, the reason they say is because by downloading apps not from Google Play, the scale of threat is significant. Our analysis found that over 50 times more malware from internet side-loaded sources on apps available from the Google Play Store. Basically saying that statement is very bold and explain how it's utter garbage, is that by not downloading your apps from Google Play, those who do it from the internet outside of Google Play, there's 50 times more malware available and being installed. Except that is kind of a lie, and I'll explain why. First and foremost, they don't cite their sources. Where did they get this number from? Where did they get the over 50 times more malware? Because if you're sideloading an app and there's malware that came from it, how do they know they came from the sideloaded app, sideloaded, even though it's installed? How do they know that if it wasn't from the Google Play Store? Does that not mean Google's tracking everything you're doing on your phone then? Right? If that's where they got the number for, they're basically admitting that they're scanning and spying on everything that you're doing. The other alternative is that they just made up this number where they send out official surveys from Google staff to regular Android users and say, hey, can you tell us you reported these things on our forum? We noticed that you posted that you're getting malware. Can you let us know how that happened? And they'll be like, yeah, I installed it from outside the internet, outside of Google Play Store. See, this is what you call the bias survey, right? It's the same concept in the fitness industry. So for example, there's like a lot of stuff regarding testosterone, I think that's what it's called. I always get the terminology incorrect. Where it's this big hoopla hype where everyone's like, this is the greatest thing. It's like this natural substance you take and it gives you a testosterone boost increase naturally. Except a lot of it was just very biased surveys, and it turned out most of it, actually 99% of it, was just hot garbage mumbo jumbo. This is a lousy excuse for Google to track the information of developers. It's more data gathering because that's what their business model is. Gather and sell data no matter how private it is. It's also a way to lock down the ecosystem because they don't want you not using Google Play, because by using Google Play, they track your data, they sell information, that's how they make more money. But even that is a load of hot garbage, because here's another type of evidence to consider. From Bitfender, their official website, hundreds of malicious Google Play hosted apps bypass Android 13 security with ease. And this article was only posted about 4 months ago. So it's recent here in 2025. And if we look at the main part of the article that we really want to discuss, the campaign features at least 331 apps that were available via the Google Play Store. 15 were still online when the research was completed by the Bitdefender team, gathering more than 60 million downloads. So malicious apps on the Google Play Store, so through Google's official security gatekeeping methodology, so called, according to them, was downloaded 60 million times. So how can we say that Google Play is actually a secure and solid platform? So here's the thing that's crazy to me. If you do the evidence calculation yourself, see why Google's just making up this garbage. If Bitdefender, which is a very well reputable security research firm, and they also provide security software, 60 million downloads of the official Google Play Store on this single campaign of bad actors, right? But then Google's like, well, overall, it's 50 times more likely. So if you take the 50 times, multiply it by the 60 million of this one malicious campaign, it comes up to 3 billion downloads. So just from this example, from this single malicious campaign from the Google Play Store that Google failed to resolve, we're saying that people are going to download more than 3 billion malicious software, not from the Google Play Store. But that doesn't even count all the numbers that Google Play Store has had malicious software available. Like, it happens all the time. So 3 billion? Like, and that's a small number. That's not the total number, because this has happened many times on the Google Play Store. Like, this makes no sense. It's just, you do the simple research like I've done and do some simple calculation. It makes no sense. That's how you know their research is a lie. To make matters worse, a very reputable website called Android Authority, which usually has great insight into what's happening in the world of Android. I mean, that's all they really do. Basically, in this article, long story short, they cover that Google's going to most likely separate the way Android devices are verified, because this whole process is going to start in September of 2026, blocking and making sure developers are verified and their apps are verified. Except they're not going to use the typical Google Play services. They're going to use this new service, Android Developer Verifier. Now, they say apparently, okay, so this is not 100% concrete, but Android Authority is usually pretty good when it comes to this thing. So whether it's true or not, Google's still going to lock down stuff, right? That's still an issue in itself. But if this happens, this is going to make things even more confusing for developers, including those who are just hobbyists and just want to make apps. Now, according to the Android Authority article, you might be able to bypass this using ADB. Long story short, it's a way to connect to your computer. It's a developer program that Android and Google allows. It's not for the everyday user. And here's some problems that'll arise from this issue. First and foremost, you're basically turning Android into an iPhone, right? The whole reason Android is so beloved is because it's an open source software, but Google Play has a lot of control over it, because they're like, if you want to, use Android on a phone and device, and you want access to the Google Play Store where pretty much all the apps are, you got to use our environment. You have to use Google Play services. You have to have Google Maps installed. You have to have Google Play Store installed. All these crazy conditions. You have to have Gemini installed. All these crazy conditions that manufacturers like Samsung and this and that have handshake agreements that they will do it. Okay. So if you're a hobbyist or if you're a student, so for example, back in my university days, this is many years ago, some of these software and coding students had to make an application of some kind. And they always choose to go with Android because it's so friendly for developers. It didn't need a lot of, pre-registration, verification, all this. It wasn't locked down. It was much easier than iPhone. What about those who are trying to support FOSS, free open source software, which I'm a fan of? I can't go to the F-Droid but potentially and get apps from there. And if I find one that I like, hey, I'm going to donate to them. It's going to be locked down to Google. Basically, you're going to have a phone that you don't 100% own. It's the same thing with iPhone. You're buying a very expensive brick. They start at like $1,000 Canadian, which is absurd. And that's for the low base model. And you don't really own and control it. That's my argument about iPhone. That will eventually become my argument against Android. That's why I installed Graphene OS. I want a device that I can control and own. That's why I dual boot all my computers into Windows on one side, but Linux on the other. I want that freedom. So usually I try to recommend a solution with a lot of consumer tech advice videos, and this one's a bit hard, okay? I'll admit this is really tough because you have two main manufacturers. You have Apple and iPhone, which is very not privacy friendly. I don't care what Tim Cook says. They've been caught many times selling data, and it's locked down. You don't really own your iPhone. You co-own your iPhone with Apple, right? And when software update stops, it's not getting security patches. It's trash unless you want to take the chance of getting a security vulnerability. You can't load a different operating system. It's e-waste. So when Apple says they care about the environment, that's a blatant lie. Android was that place to go, but a lot of manufacturers don't open the bootloader anymore. So you can't load your own custom version of Android. They've also started locking it down and making it much difficult to find some of the driver stuff for Pixel devices to load Graphene OS, which is what I'm using. So what does that leave you with? It's not much. I mean, honestly, there's some Linux devices. They haven't gained much traction and popularity, but I think it's worth considering. The biggest downside with some of those is that I think majority of them run Ubuntu. They're not the most stable for a mobile platform, but give it time and it can get better. Like Android was a hot mess when it came out. I liked it because it was open, but man, it was trash. It wasn't a stable operating system, very laggy and bloated, and it got better. Linux devices will get better. Some people complain about the hardware on Linux devices are underwhelming. Honestly, our standard for hardware has become so high, we don't realize that a lot of it is just useless. Look out for Linux devices. I think that'll be honestly the only way to get out of here. We just need to manufacture to partner with them. It's frustrating because these major companies like Sony, Samsung, Motorola, they don't realize that if they partner with Graphene OS, it's like, here, we're going to give you the full reign of our drivers and all the information you need for unlocking the bootloader and this and that, or Linux. I don't think they understand how much it'll sell like hotcakes. Like they're sitting on a gold mine and they don't realize it because everyone wants to bow to the rule of Google. And then, of course, you have iPhone on their own over there. So consider alternatives to iPhone and Android. Is it a pain in the butt? Yeah, it takes some time to getting used to. But honestly, you learn to use Windows for the first time, you get used to it. You get your iPhone for the first time or Android device, it takes a lot of learning. Once you get used to it, it's not that bad. So here I am on a Sunday evening because I have to do these videos after hours. I have a full-time commitment otherwise on weekdays. So maybe really consider hitting the like button, subscribe. It literally helps my channel grow. And because I have to do these after hours, maybe consider hitting the super thanks button, which is a heart icon below the video. And that's pretty much a wrap.